Hi, my name is Aksik, aka Annika, and welcome to my channel, where we mostly talk about adult coloring and art and art materials. And this time we are talking about these markers. They were sent to me by Ohuhu a couple of weeks ago when they had contacted me and asked me if I wanted to try out some of their stuff, and I chose the kind of a new types of alcohol markers. I already did a fairly detailed review about the new rubber nib markers, and today we're talking about soft chisel markers. So what a warning from the first go. For a lot of us, chisel is not really relevant on the market at all, especially adult colorists. We don't tend to use that nib. It could just as well not be there, which is why a lot of adult colorists prefer the markers which have the brush and the fine tip, like Honolulu has them. This is the Honolulu brush tip, which we all know and love very well. And here's the fine tip. If you're doing fine details, that can be very handy. So if you are one of those people that don't really love or dislike, quite frankly, the chisel tip to start with, then this video is probably going to be not for you, because this is mostly about that nib. So let's talk about that nib. Let's talk about what it looks like and what it can do. And actually first I should tell you why I like chisel nibs, because I actually prefer chisel nib marker. My favorite type of marker would be one end brush and one end chisel. And I know that I'm in minority, probably in the coloring community, okay? Not probably a lot of marker artists and such, and whoever uses alcohol markers from architects to all sorts of enthusiasts, who need to use put down clean color quickly and painlessly. Then a lot of these people actually do love the chisel nibs a lot. And question is why. Now the typical chisel nibs looks like this. It's basically squared all over. It's if you look at from the front, that's square. It's slightly kind of slanted in places. You can see the kind of the way it tapers a little bit towards the end, and you can do variation of lines. I'm just taking a piece of paper that is actually not great. I have marker paper as well, but you can put down really thin lines with it. If you learn a control with that nib, you can do super thin lines. You can do kind of medium lines, like this. You can essentially control how thick your line is very easily. And also it's the easiest way to put down color on a big area, because chisel nib releases the ink the fastest of all the nibs, obviously. So if you want to do big blend or big area, chisel nib is actually your best bet. And because I do tend to, quite often, I know people will tell me this is a waste of ink and such, but I do like to do backgrounds often with alcohol markers. And if there's kind of a big area like this or a big blend, that actually will, if you have to do really big area, a lot of color, it actually wears on your brush nib quite a bit, and brush nib often doesn't release ink fast enough to get even tones, whereas even kind of coverage, whereas chisel gives you more ink and more even coverage. That, of course, all depends on paper and such. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to show you the new nib now, and this is, it looks very different from your typical chisel. Okay, I'm going to take the chisel out. Firstly, so they're going to be next to each other. So this is them kind of flat, okay? So firstly, the new chisel nib is slimmer. And I'm turning them so there's kind of like narrow end. And it tapers differently. It tapers basically from both sides to fairly slim, slim tip. Sorry, that was weird. It's as if I swallowed a bug. Okay. It does feel softer than your regular chisel nib. I will put a footage there that shows you how it bends.
I thought I'll actually show you the regular kind of a classic chisel nib first. It's very squared, it's rigid, and you can pretty much vary the line weight very well once you learn to control it. You can't exactly flick with it very well, that's one thing you really can't do. But what you can do exceptionally well is to achieve even kind of a flat coverage like this, or kind of a very, very wet blends. On a paper, and you can see you can make marks. I didn't really go for super, you can actually get thinner lines with it than I'm showing there. This is now the new nib. I'm turning it around so you can see the shape maybe a bit better, and you can see how it bends, and I'm showing pretty much from all sides, you know, this, and it bounces back very well as well. It doesn't kind of stay squished. I don't know how well it would hold up on excessive or long usage like this, you know, kind of squishing it like this, you know, how fast it would actually become uncontrollable or soft. As I haven't had it for long, I can't tell, but you can see you can flick with it. That means that you can create far more sophisticated blends than you could with the classic rigid chisel nib. So that's that. You can also, if you're kind of marker artist and marker enthusiast, you can create works in more kind of an expressive, loose style really easily, you know, either choosing to do blends or it's just expressive lines. And you can see how, you know, well you can actually control it, you know, those tiny dots there. I'm still to establish how well it would work in adult coloring.
The shape of it makes controlling the chisel better. So I can understand why this would be a good thing. I don't know if it will actually be beneficial that much in blending. I'm going to try that out. But, you know, I am trying to be like super objective here, although I know that, you know, I did get these products for free. And I guess subconsciously you're always going to have some sort of a bias, but no, I'm trying to overcome it. So chisel backgrounds, you know, chisel tip backgrounds. For some reason I remembered these specific books. Okay, let me pull it slightly up because those are bigger books. They're kind of a long. I like these books actually a lot. For example, this one here, this background is done with chisel tips. Because, you know, there was quite a lot of it. I had to put quite a lot of ink down, and it was easier to do it with chisel tips. And I think even the sea and everything else that, you know, was done with chisel tip marker. And the base for the face was put down with the chisel tip of a pro marker because I wanted that specific kind of a really pale, slightly kind of a golden skin tone. This background would have been put down with just chisel tip, you know, just to get a nice flat background quickly. If you don't, you know, and without wearing down much on your brush tip. Because brush tips, you know, the most wear they get when you know, kind of repetitively do the same motion and kind of applying more pressure to them, because if you're putting them down a big area, you know, especially if you work fairly fast, they start getting dry, you know, the ink can't keep up with the speed you want to get them down. So you subconsciously keep putting more pressure on them, and therefore you're killing your brush tips faster, whereas chisel tip is almost impossible to kill. So you can just work away. This one is also done mostly the sky and everything. There is some bit of pencil added here for added shadows and kind of highlights there in the clouds. But yeah, most of the lay down is done here with the same kind of a chisel tip marker. So just, you know, as a sample, I don't even know why I pulled that book out for the samples. Okay, so this is a bit of, I don't think it's officially marker paper, but back when I was still doing a lot of pretty much daily alcohol marker work, you know, I have still left from these times kind of like cards, cardstock, quite a bit of cardstock that I used for blending, and it genuinely is nice for blending, so there was a reason I was using it. And I pulled out these from Ohuhu regular line. These are Honolulu's, and I have a mix, like, because I didn't get the big set. I got my sets kind of in different times, you know, kind of bought additional colors. So I think my original set was brush and chisel, and then for some reason my biggest set, you know, kind of my top-up set, I bought with brush and fine nib, and I am still kind of sorry for it. I understand that, you know, I am in minority in that, and, you know, there's no right or wrong there. I just, you know, if I'm working in small details and basing in small details, which is, you know, what a lot of people would use the fine nib for, I tend to prefer water-based marker, you know, in these ones. So yeah, I almost never use the fine nibs in my alcohol markers, but I do use chisels. So okay, so I found 4 markers that I could kind of blend that actually have the chisel nibs, and I'm going to quickly kind of put down color and show, you know, how I would go about. So here we go. Let's get closer. All right. The camera is going to be losing focus now, isn't it? Okay. So the best way to put down color is to keep it fairly straight. At least, you know, the regular ones. But you can see how easy. And it isn't just that card. I tried it on absolutely regular card as well, you know, with no kind of alcohol marker history to it. And because of the amount of ink, see, that one is too light. I don't have a good jump here. It's too, you know, it's pushing back the darker marker. But I couldn't find correct color in actual chisel nib in there, sadly enough, so I can't really demonstrate it to the very end, you know, kind of the clean blend. So here we go. Let's make it sure it's very wet. Maybe we can save it a little bit. Yeah, it's still kind of a bit too wet. I'm just pushing away. But you can also see, you know, how much ink it puts out, you know, that it's able to push super easily away the ink that is way darker than itself. So this is now, you know, chisel nibs, and you could see with the first 3 colors, you know, how seamless and how easy it was to get a blend because of the amount of ink that came down. Now also you can see here, you know, this is where I was doing kind of the heavier blending, and you can see here what happened, you know, because how much ink came out, you get, you know, pretty strong bleed through. So you need to make sure that you have something preferably plastic, or at least, something real strong or really something that won't get the ink through. You need to have something behind the page when you're doing that. So let's find something. Okay, I have the color swatches here. I did them. I thought about doing it on the camera, but I am pretty much 100% certain that, several people have done that. And, if I'm adding my voice there, nobody needs another another swatching, I think. Maybe just, my point of view on, what these markers are for, who they're for, and, if they would actually work for us as adult colorists. Okay, so surprisingly enough, these swatches, Ohuhu tends to be pretty terrible about positioning them. There's like random colors listed, like there could be greens between pinks and so on, just randomly. But in this case, actually, the color groups have been pretty neatly positioned. So at least greens are with greens and pinks are with pinks. Of course, it could be better how they kind of put them into order, and this cameo rose should be moved, and there's always but this is fine. We're doing fine. It'll work, and we need to know. And there's like yellows. Once again, it seems to be always that the yellows have really good blending set. You can do quite a lot with these yellows. You can do nice blends. Although these, once again, things should be switched, how they are here, but never mind, at least that you can see the whole group together. And for my eye, that is enough usually. Then some skin tones here, which aren't very, important for me in this specific set, because they also sent me a skin tone set. That one is skin tones, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then this is, the pinks. You can pretty much find decent blending set in all colors, kind of like testing set. As a testing set, it would totally work. Although I guess there should be a bit more lights, a lot of, for our needs, for a lot of adult colorists, what we're looking for are kind of pastel light colors. I am not that much in, or I often base not with a light color. I actually bring it, bring highlights in with pencils and put down mid-tone often, or sometimes even dark. But I can talk about that actually, how to do that and how super easy kind of getting some, for example, folds or clothing, how super easy that makes some shading. But never mind about that. Then, let's pick, let's say 3 colors, because it's too much to ask to have 4 colors here. But let's say what would be, okay, close to this. Yeah, this is going to be rough, isn't it? Okay, so we can take this, and maybe this. There's a huge jump again. And this one doesn't really, that's too pink to go there. Actually, I might try this, and this. So these 3, let's see if we can blend them together with the chisel. And how does it feel? See, it's very hard to describe to you to the camera or whatever, this is how it feels, because this is all about feel, if they make your life harder or easier. So it is very similar color. To me, I might be wrong, but to me it feels like it might give, that's quite a bit of a jump here. It's going to just push away the other color, isn't it? Yeah, there's big gaps there. It's very hard to get nice blend there, unless I would do the blends with the brush, which means that I would flick the blends, you know, into each other. They're actually hard to get in. I'm trying to do it with, you know, going over a couple of times to see if that'll make it nicer. Yeah, I got the blend between two lighter ones pretty all right, but the one from dark to the so-called mid-tone is not really working great here. It's too light, the mid-tone, to look, for the blend to look great. I could flick them together, you know, if I was using the brush tips. So are they actually, you know, as good for blending as the regular chisel tips are? They might be, but I can't really tell with these colors. Okay, let's find some other colors that would be kind of closer to each other. So Morello, Cherry, and Deep Vermilion. So that's kind of warmer. This is a beautiful deep red though. So we'll see, okay, how now, moment of truth. Will it or will it not? Oh yeah, it will, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do blend all right. But I have to now go back and forth a couple of times. It's a good idea to go over the kind of a blend area a couple of times though, to get, you know, smoother effect. Especially if they tend to, if this tends to kind of push the other one away instead of blending. No, that actually works. If I go totally over it, what's happened? Yeah, you do get a good blend. I'm just going to now put down for my own reference and then kind of try to describe to you, you know, the ink lay down. How does it feel? Does it feel as rich as it does with a regular chisel? Like almost, but not quite. I do like the ink lay down of the actual, you know, kind of your classic chisel better. There is maybe somewhat better control. Well, there is obviously because of the bend, you know, how it bends and such. This one now I will try out in a minute in some coloring books, you know, how they actually, how the fact that they are more controllable and softer and kind of slimmer, will that be helpful if I'm doing a background, for example? But first I'm going to show you the other set. So you saw already the, sorry, I'm going to lift it so you can actually see what's happening. So you saw the, it's a 48 set. I think there might be several versions of this, but maybe not. And as I said, you know, it's all right. Little, you know, colors wise as well, you know, kind of, you do have pretty much, you know, most of the necessary colors to do some kind of trial blending. It does have the regular brush, so if you want to, if you're just buying your first Ohuhu markers, or, you know, just trying them out, and you want to try out a different, you know, you want to try out brush and chisel, you know, new chisel, kind of soft chisel, then yeah, this one would work. It's absolutely all right, but I can't really say at the moment that I think that they work as well as, you know, for what I need them for, than the kind of classic regular chisel. I'm, you know, this is, well, you know, I'm going to try it in coloring books and then kind of give my verdict after that. Okay, I managed to get the plastic thing. And as usual, you know, in both sets, you get the backing thing, kind of the plastic that you can put behind the page. Because of the size of these are kind of good sketchbook sizes. You know, this is essentially like maybe to use in A5 or A6 coloring book, fine books or sketchbooks is, or this is definitely more of a like A6 size. But these are genuinely good, you know, if you can use them, and if, you know, your paper or your book is small and this is all you need. I like these backing plastics. They're nice, they're soft, and they really protect the page next to it, like nothing goes through these. So I do like them. It's just they are, you know, because our formats are like big squares and A5, sorry, A4 often. So these too often are just too small for what we need. We can use them if we kind of move them behind the page, but this is dangerous because you do forget. I have done that several times. I have used, you know, kind of the small one. Oh, I'm just going to have it behind the area I'm coloring, and if I'm moving, I'm going to move that one as well, and everything is going to be fine. And then you forget that you need to move it, and you ruin next 2 pages, you know? So, yeah. Approach with caution. So these ones are the skin color pack, and this one, I actually like these colors quite a lot. I'm going to show you the colors in a second. And I am kind of curious, would I be able to do kind of like skin with a chisel? I probably will try it out kind of quickly. And here I'm going to show you, I have my swatching book. Basically, I took the swatch card that was there, but in that case, to me, it was all over the place. Like, I could not make sense of it. So I cut it apart and tried to make better sense for me, because it's easier for my eye kind of to understand and grab the markers if I have them in kind of sets like these. They're not perfect sets, you know, because obviously they won't be, but you know, they work together. Now, what I would have wished here, for example, is that what these two, roasted cashew and burnt ochre, are quite similar, you know, in strength and hue. So I would have preferred maybe one of them to be omitted and have something between here, kind of muted, lighter muted, kind of a pinkish purplish color here between the ballet pink and dark mauve, which, you know, that type of a color I use often for skin shadows, and dark mauve is great, but I don't really have anything a bit lighter to soften it with, which, you know, I would prefer. But, you know, there's quite a bit of options here. And of course, you know, these ones, you can also, you know, move between sets, put them in between, you know, these colors there, you know, both of those sets. I didn't put them in specific ones because they could pretty much be moved essentially, you know, in several places here, and they would work. And also this, you know, there's a big jump here between like cameo rose, dusty peach, that kind of go nicely, but there should be something in between here, you know. But you know, that's, you know, if you do fairly flicky blending, you can get them into each other, but you know, would be easier if there was something in between, because there's, for example, in this line as well, you know, there's quite a lot quite similar. Like one of these two could have been omitted. You know, it's just, yeah, I would have probably, you know, done a little bit of different choices, but mostly I think, you know, you can do pretty much any undertone of a skin, or, you know, kind of most undertones of a skin quite easily here. So, you know, it's not a bad set, the 24 set. I know, I think they have bigger set as well, but I don't know, you know, there's probably then more kind of, maybe those issues don't arise that you have kind of big jumps between the colors. But you can totally go for the 24 set as well. So I'm not really kind of whining about too much there. I'm just looking for something, you know, two backgrounds that I can quickly do with each set, kind of each type of a marker, and see if, you know, how and if they're going to work. So okay, I am going to take this one and do the background in maybe this chisel, the dark color here. Am I in the focus? I hope I am. So I'm going to do background with the marker here, and then I am going to do a background in one of the chisel, soft chisel markers in another book, and just one marker, because otherwise, you know, this is going to be too long. So I'm going to switch off now, get ready, and then kind of put it into the speed coloring, how I put down the marker background here.
And here I am working on the flat background. I have to apologize, although I did try, but it still looks a bit blurry, but never mind. You can mostly see what I'm doing. The marker goes in nice and juicy and flat, and as you can see, I am able to control the kind of a tiny areas as well. It's always a good idea, if you need to go into the smaller areas, to do a bigger area of flat coloring first. This way the marker nib isn't as juicy anymore when you get to the more detailed areas like this here. The bleeds are easier to control, and you can see that kind of biting me as I'm doing that little blend here. The pink marker I'm going to be working now, this one here, didn't really get, you know, the nib emptied out, so-called emptied out, and you can see that it starts bleeding when I'm working near the lines. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, you get lovely, really nice flat color. And this is now the other book I'm doing, and I am working now with the new soft chisel nibs here, and immediately it's clear that although they are very easy to control, which you will see later there, the ink output is not the same. It's almost nowhere near the same. They still have bigger ink output and more stable ink output than brush nibs, and therefore are probably better for doing big flat areas like this. But you can see I have to work the area several times. I ended up actually having to go over it like 2 or 3 times to get nice and flat finish. And but it is doable, and it is really easy to work with. I have to admit that, you know, that nib is very flexible, but you can see how I kind of flip and turn it in my hand to use whichever, you know, kind of an edge or corner of the nib works the best for the area I'm working in. And, you know, I'm not really kind of getting into the places I shouldn't be with the nib. It's really easy to do even fairly detailed areas with that soft chisel nib. So yeah, you know, it is good for that, I guess. And I'm also trying here quickly, you know, how putting down the same marker shading works with that nib, and it's fine. You know, it was easy. You know, and then trying kind of a, you know, even smaller areas, and yeah, you know, I can do it. You know, nothing bleeds, nothing goes in.
Here is the background now, flat background. I didn't really plan for the blending here, so it didn't really come out great. I don't even know why I decided to do it. But I mostly kind of tried out how the flat background, on regular kind of this is decent coloring book paper. Would not recommend that on Amazon UK or Amazon US books because they are just too soft and thin of a paper and you get horrific bleeds. So you can really only do kind of flat background, really juicy flat background like this on a mostly decent paper. If you do it on Amazon paper, you need to be super careful that you don't color up until the very line. You kind of leave a little gap between the line and the marker coloring. And this way, when it spreads, it's, doesn't get this huge bleed into the line art. So, as you can see, it's mostly quite even toned. There was one area there at the top here. This is the kind of last area I did. And you can see that the dark marker, I've kind of used up the ink flow. I would need to, I would have needed to kind of just leave it laying or, sitting for a while for ink to flow back into the chisel nib, because eventually even chisel nib gets dry. So you can see that it's not as even there as it is in most other places, but it's still nice and flat background. And usually, there's going to be some sort of a details or splatters or, stars or whatever I'm going to put here on this background added anyway. So it's not really super important that it's, absolutely and utterly flat. It's not acrylic paint flat. But, if I had enough patience or will to put 2 layers down, it would have been, utterly and totally flat. So, but this is just 1 layer, I didn't work over really the layers here much. So that's that. And then this is now the one done with the soft chisel markers. And to my disappointment, I have to say that it was much harder going to get the flat result. And even then the result isn't like utterly flat. This is here, I think I got the best results. Kind of smaller areas work the best with these markers. If you do like big expanses like this, I struggled. I think there's 2 or 3 layers, in some places 2, in some places 3 layers down here, to kind of try to get it, more flat or more even. And I can still see kind of, color kind of is a bit patchy in areas. It was in the other book as well, but there it was just 1 layer drawn out. Whereas here I did work it over, several times to kind of try and get there. So it was really easy and fast to put down, if you're coloring details, kind of a big areas like this, kind of like put base down. Then it was easy, and the flexibility of the and the control of the soft chisel nib plus the kind of a really thin bits of it helped in that. I did get less bleeds with these ones because ink output with that one isn't as high as with the regular chisel. So it's really up to you. If you are looking to, something to put down flat backgrounds like this, I think regular chisel is better choice. But of course, you need to be more careful with the regular chisel because you're going to get more bleeds if you're working on really absorbent paper like Amazon paper, where, I wouldn't put down. I have, but I have also gotten burnt pretty badly with backgrounds like this because it does tend to bleed really easily. And I know a lot of you will say, oh, it's just wasting ink, why do you use alcohol markers to, kind of do flat backgrounds like this? Why don't you use anything else? And my answer is, this is one of the big reasons I have them, to get you know, kind of clean flat color if I wanted to, and clean big areas like this, or clean big blends. This is, you know, what I like to use them for. So, you know, everybody to their own. there's no police, you know, alcohol market police that comes and arrests you if you waste ink. You know, if I want to waste my ink, I'll waste my ink. Just a second, I need to go and appease my dog, who is demanding that I put a blanket on her. So if I'm being honest, I still haven't found for myself a reason why I would prefer those tips to kind of regular chisel tips. I don't know if you can see the difference of how it looks like. I guess you should be able to see, you know, mostly. As I said, they are softer, they are more flexible, but you know, as I'm using chisel tips mostly for doing kind of big areas and flat, you know, when I want like flat result in big areas, or, you know, if I want smooth blends in big areas, that didn't really work out for me yet anyway. So let's see. There's this book. Okay, is there a paper that I could put behind here, because I should really move the paper around. Okay, so let's stick that one there. And I thought, you know, okay, if I can't get easy, fast, flat area, no, I could, but it took me a while and I had to do several layers. So will I try blending then? Because as they say in the little booklet that comes with them, that these are supposed to be great for blending. Let me see, you know, if I can find the little S, yeah, Honolulu S, that's what they're called. Honolulu S series, soft chisel nib crafted from nylon. Offers remarkable flexibility and control over line width and thickness. Whether you're creating intricate details or bold strokes, the chisel nib enables you to achieve your desired effects with ease. And yes, it is flexible. You can vary the line, but the same things you can do with the brush tip as well. So this is specifically for people who just, you know, prefer literally, you know, the chisel nib is more of their thing than brush nib, which, yeah, I do love chisel nib, but I also love my brush nibs. So I don't know if I would go that one, because it doesn't really do what I was looking for. So let's try to do maybe a pumpkin, and try to do like blending, you know, actual blending, and that, see how that will work out for us. You know, maybe I'm getting things utterly wrong. No, so what is here? So let's get potato brown. Oops, things are falling. Okay, potato brown. Then dark marigold. And orange and marigold orange. And mustard. Marigold orange. Orange and mustard. Hello. Okay, so let's take these. That seem to be, you know, if you want real bright pumpkin, it'll be something like this. And I want some green thrown in as well in some of them. So I can't really take really dark one. I'm going to try that bud green in some of them as well. Okay, so let's see how, you know, will it work. So let me get you closer. Now I don't even know which one I'm going to color. Maybe this one here, because that's kind of at the front. And we're going to try and go at it with those new chisel tips and see if how that's going to work out for us. And yeah, I guess, you know, if you're more into kind of this kind of painterly result, you know, where your work eventually looks a bit more sketchy, and you can see, because these inevitably the result of the brush tip is more of a smooth. These ones tend to leave this textured result, just like you can almost see the stripes. Okay, so let's put some underneath here, just to, okay, and we'll see how this is going to work out for us. Okay, let's try to make it a bit sketchy, you know, that it wouldn't be super. Okay, potato brown. What was the next color that I wanted? Oh, dark marigold. Okay. Yeah, it's very orange. And the other ones are even more orange. I would like some bit more natural colors, but never mind. We'll work with what we have. Could layer some kind of a, no, violet is just going to cool it down, but it, yeah. Yeah, you can flick with these, you know, if you like kind of sketchy, you know, approach, or more painterly approach, then these ones might work for you, you know. Okay, so, all right. Okay, and there's also orange. Oops, I took the wrong tip. Did I use the correct tip now, or did I just, I don't even remember if I used the chisel tip for the previous one. Oh well, I went back to chisel tip now anyway. If I didn't, it's like force of habit. You tend to grab the brush if you do blends like this. Yeah, adding the actual orange makes things look a bit better. Okay. Alrighty. And marigold orange. That's kind of lighter, but still fairly bright orange. So what should I use? Something violet, but I don't have anything. I want to kind of tone it down in some areas. So I need to, okay, do I have anything that is like really pale violet? Great lavender. Great lavender. Okay. Let's see if I can kind of mute. I don't even want to darken it at the bottom here, but I want to mute the colors a bit in the shadows. So it wouldn't be so brown and wouldn't be so orange in some areas. Okay, so I'm using great lavender for that, which is, oh god, I need to show you what color it is. Like this one is great for neutralizing orange. It's kind of this fairly pale, slightly muted. Purple, violet, whatever. Okay, and now I need to add mustard. Okay, so where's mustard? That's very bright now. Let's see how this is going to work out for us. They are very juicy. And yes, you can blend with them. And you can control them pretty well, you know, and you can do big wide strokes if you wanted to. Like if you... So if it's a kind of a big item you're shading, then these would be useful nibs for blending. But I don't know, would I specifically get, you know, that set just, you know, for that one purpose? If I can manage the same thing with regular regular nibs as well, kind of brush nibs. I don't know. I took a darker brown. It's cedar brown or cedar brown, and I'm just going to add some darkness, and all with the chisel. We'll try to do everything with the chisel, even the most kind of a detailed and intricate parts, to make sure that it can be done. And yeah, you can flick with them, you can blend with them. Same things can be done with the brush nib as well. So for me, they're really kind of a bit surplus, the requirements. Okay, and I'm going to add a bit of this orange as well, just called orange. I'm not even calling out the marker names, I'm just testing the nibs, you know. And I wanted to test them, so I do it in real time, so you can see that I'm not, not trying to tell you anything that is not really happening. So yeah, you can absolutely blend with them. Work with them. They are juicy, but of course, because they're juicy, there is more, you know, if you do kind of small areas and blending like this, you are more likely to get bleeds, of course, you know, that just goes without saying. Just making sure that the shadows are nice and dark enough. And marigold orange, just, you know, adding different oranges, different browns. Yeah, came out all right. I don't know if I'm okay. Let's see what I can do with I have a problem that the correct color of green, I don't really have kind of a darker olivey greens or any olivey greens really in this set. They're all very kind of a bright spring green region, so I might need to help them with orange actually. So what do I have? I have grass green, and I need to take dark emerald green because that is my only option really here. So I'm going to do some sort of a blend here. Not this one. And blending it out with something which is called grass green. And once again, working and then it's bud green. And yeah, you can work in tiny areas. In a way, it could almost be a replacement, kind of, because of this, really sharp bit here. You can, I don't know if you can see, but this bit here, for almost a bullet nib, because you have this really kind of a small sharp tip area. And I'm going to put some dark marigold into it, because to me it's kind of a too bright green. I'm going to add some mustard to it. Oops, wrong tip. Yeah, just to tone down the green a bit and make it more olive green. So there you go, there's a pumpkin. I might add to it maybe some kind of a light pencil, to highlight some areas, because I didn't really have the colors that would have worked for me here in this set, for light areas, but that's what the opaque pencils are good for. So Chroma Flows are Prisma colors to the rescue. So there, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found information that you were looking for in this video. Sadly, this time I wasn't, as taken with these new markers as I was with the Honolulu rubber tip, the plus set. These ones, yeah, they're fine. They're okay, they're nice to experiment with and play with, but I probably, wouldn't buy myself a set. So thank you for staying with me and, having all the patience in the world to listen, putting up with my experiments and ramblings. Have loads of creative time. Be happy, be healthy. Thank you very much for watching again, and bye-bye.